life with gladness. Take away all my sadness and ease my troubles, that's what you do. Take away my sadness, fill my life with gladness, and ease my troubles, that's what you do. Thank you all very much.
You know, all the years I've heard that song, I don't think I really listened to the words in a long time. It's so sweet. Well, I sure am glad to see you all today. I love this platform, this lectern. It's so pretty. I want it. I want one of these. I can have it today. Well, thank you. How's that? Vogue. I found an article that I was really intrigued by the other day, and I was someplace where I couldn't take it. I mean, I could have stolen the magazine out of the doctor's office, but I try not to do that. The article was called "The End of You." So I snapped a picture of it with my cell phone and then printed it. I hope I can read it because it's really little. Is this the moment you finally become yourself? I gave this title to Charles late in the day yesterday. And Charles, where are you in the booth? Hey, Charles, there's a hand back there with Charles behind it. And he found that great quote on the front of your program today. Thanks, Charles, for making my lesson better. The thing that is really hard and really amazing is giving up on being perfect and beginning the work of becoming yourself. So that's a great, thank you, Anna Quinlan. That's beautiful. And the good news is, and we'll just get this handled right away, is we know already in unity that becoming ourselves means becoming more of the Christ person that we know that we have inside us. So it's the emergence of the Spirit that's been living in us forever, since before our birth. It's the emerging of that out into the demonstration of our daily life. And that's what the human journey is about. We get to take that incredibly high vibratory level of Christ consciousness and let it come seeping through the dense properties of our flesh. Don't you love that idea? You know, it's vibrating really fast and we're actually vibrating really slow in our body. But that is emerging through our body, through our minds, through our actions, through our words, through our interactions with others, through our life's work, so that we become more and more of that light being that we're intended to be. That is the journey, that's the reward. And those of you who've heard me speak for 22 years in Austin, can you believe that? 22 years in the Austin spiritual community, and there are some of you that have been there from the very beginning. And I'm so grateful. And for those of you who came before and have been my teachers, and those of you who got here yesterday and have become my teacher. So those of you that have been around know that my idea is not that this is some kind of boot camp that we spiritual beings got sent to for punishment or to get better. You know, that's not why we're here. This is like a journey we signed up for because it is the pinnacle of expression. It's our living out what Jesus showed us, which was the perfect amalgam of the divine and the human. And so we signed up for that journey and said, yeah, I'm ready to take that on. Although there are days when we wish we hadn't. There are days when we're pretty sure we didn't sign up for this particular part of it. And there are always days that lift us up and remind us that what we're doing is good work. And then there are days when we wander lost and kind of humbled and helpless. It's all part of the journey. Easy to say, hard to do. And who we think we are is always something different than what we actually are. So your opinions about yourself don't matter. Yeah, you know, because your opinion about yourself and about others for that matter is as changeable as the clouds passing by the sun. That's how changeable it is. So this article is about how we perceive ourselves. Is this the moment you finally become yourself? So it says, think back to yourself a decade ago compared with the person that you are now. So go back to 2004, sorry. 2014 minus 10 is 2004. I was going to go back 20 years for a second there. Okay, we'll go back 20. Okay, so go back to who you think you were 10 years ago. When Harvard psychologist Daniel Gilbert recruited thousands of adults to perform that mental exercise, he found that people of all ages understand that their personalities, values, and tastes have evolved continuously over their lives. Now imagine yourself in 10 years from today, which by my estimation would be 2024. Good, see, math. If you're like the subjects in Gilbert's study, the picture in your mind is probably little changed from the person you are today. Gilbert and colleagues, Jody Koidbach, he ought to be doing psychology work, right? Jody Koidbach, and Timothy D. Wilson conclude that people regard the present as a watershed moment at which they have finally become the person they will be for the rest of their lives. Ha! Here we are. Otherwise, hardly anyone would get a tattoo or post a photo of it on Facebook. Zing! This phenomenon, called the end of history illusion. Oh, don't you love that phrase? It's called the end of history illusion, is pervasive and could lead to what Koidbach, now an assistant professor at the a university in Barcelona, I can't pronounce it, delicately calls suboptimal decisions. That is so great. I have got so many suboptimal decisions that I've made in my life. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay, so what they did was they asked people to name a price that they'd pay for their concert by their favorite band, assuming that it takes place in 10 years. Okay, so what price would you pay for your favorite band today, assuming that you were going to see the concert in 10 years? Yeah, oh yeah, you're going to have great seats. Have I lost volume here? That's good? All right. And then a second group was asked to put a price on a ticket now to hear their favorite band from 10 years earlier. Yeah. I went kind of farther back and I thought about Wham. Yeah. I thought that was it right there. So the first group that said that they'd buy a ticket 10 years from now for their favorite band today said they'd pay $129. And the second group said they'd pay $80 for the band that they liked 10 years ago, which is a measure of how much we delude ourselves about the stability of our personalities and preferences. Yeah, I am going to love this band in 10 years. I promise I am. I'd pay $129 for a ticket. Wham, not so much. And they compare it to people like young lawyers. They did a study even back in the 70s and 80s about young lawyers and what they were doing to get ahead in their practices, what they sacrificed with their families and their health. The older lawyers said, wish I hadn't done it that way. Okay? If they could have looked ahead to the people they would become, would they have spent their time differently? And of course the answer is yes. I mean, think back to your 20s. That was the age when we were trying to establish ourselves and make careers and make money and become somebody and make a difference, mostly to ourselves. And that's what we're supposed to do in our 20s. But with our wisdom now, we thought we were so darn smart back then. Yeah. Yeah. Perhaps what we should seek, borrowing from Robert Burns's favorite poem, is not the gift of seeing ourselves as others see us, but of seeing the person we will be in the future, especially if that person will be applying for a teaching job with "Ride Fast, Die Young" tattooed on her forearm. Just saying. So we give ourselves an opportunity to see ourselves as that, in putting it in unity terms, as that person that we're becoming. Let's see ourselves today as the person that we're becoming. Let's go ahead and act as if that is where maybe we're closer than we think we are. Now, the thing about the human experience is that we always get to grow. And we always have opportunities for life experiences to teach us so that we are constantly becoming that Christ person. It's usually not an easy lesson. There has to be something that shakes us out of the complacency of the illusion that our history has. Here we are. We've arrived. And I bet I could point to every single person in this room, and you would have an experience that you've had maybe even in the last week, in which thinking that you've arrived, that illusion has been shattered. Anybody? Everybody? Thank you. No kidding. No kidding. So I have to tell you that it's a real, I think one of the reasons that I went into ministry was not all the reasons that I thought. You know, God, I'm pretty sure that the call was authentic. I remember the moment. I remember when it was pretty clear that this is what I needed to do with my life. But then I discovered, about 9 months into the process, about the regular gestation period, I discovered into the process that ministry was the work that I had to do in order to keep my own feet at the fire. You know, it's not necessarily because I have some great message to give to the world, but because I'd better keep thinking about giving the message or I'm going to fall behind. Minister friends, you know about this. And so it's very humbling. Very humbling to be in a position where you have even a greater chance of believing your own illusions and to stay on top of your spiritual life. So some of you know already that a little over 2 weeks ago, I had one of those sudden cataclysmic, unexpected events in my life. And it sure didn't fit into my plan at all. My family was traveling on 2 separate college visits. My children turned 17 on Tuesday. No, they're going to. I've got 2 days left of them being 16-year-olds. And it begins. Oh, honey, let me say, it began. It began. It's so. Bill and son Alex were flying out of Austin to go to South Bend, Indiana, to Notre Dame for a college visit. Son David and I were headed to Atlanta for a visit to Emory University. And David was really excited because we were staying right by the CDC. He loves the CDC. Yeah, that's scary. And we planned this trip right about the time the Ebola patients were being transferred from Africa to Atlanta. So, yeah, exciting. And we left Bergstrom at about within an hour of each other on our respective flights. So as I arrived in Atlanta, and if you've ever been at Atlanta Hartsfield Airport, it just goes on and on and on. You ride trains, you think you're going to finally be in Florida or something, and you're still in Atlanta Airport. And David and I just got into the rental car place about 10 o'clock at night. I got a call from Alex's phone, like, hey, sweetie, y'all must be in between flights, because they were going to Chicago and then South Bend. And it was a stranger on the phone. He said, I'm actually calling on your son's phone because your husband apparently his heart has stopped. And we're on the plane, and your son is doing CPR on him right now, but there's no pulse and no respiration. And I have to go. He's giving him mouth to mouth right now, and he'll call you back in a little while. So I'm like this, having to tell David, your dad's not alive right now. So we decide to go ahead and can't get out of Atlanta that night. And so we go on to our hotel. The only high spot of the night was we were right across the street from the CDC, which was a big thrill for David. And you mind if I rest my hand on your monitor here? Okay. Just kind of holding myself up a little bit. And so we spent the rest of the evening. They revived Bill. And what happened was their flight into Chicago had gotten delayed on the tarmac getting into the terminal. And so it cut down the time on their connection to their South Bend flight. So they hurried through the terminal. Alex ran ahead, said, Dad, take your time, because y'all know Bill's had a history of heart and pulmonary problems. So Bill hurried, but not as fast as Alex. They got on the plane. As soon as Bill got on the plane, he was not able to lift his luggage into the overhead because his left arm wasn't working. And he sat down in his seat, labored breathing, collapsed. And Alex saw it right away, felt for a pulse. For some reason, Bill never sits on the aisle seat. He always wants the window. He was sitting on the aisle. Alex dragged him into the aisle, called for medical help, dialed me on his phone, threw it to a stranger, and said, this is my mom, tell her what's going on. He started compressions. And they had an AED on the plane, and they gave him a shock, called for a shock. If you work in a public place, know where the AED is, my friends. It'll take you right through whatever you need to do to save somebody's life. And anyway, the paramedics got there, and they had a heartbeat. And he finally, thank you. So it was ventricular fibrillation. Heart just wasn't working. All the bypass work that he'd done was still all clear and everything. And so David and I stayed up half the night rearranging everything to get to Chicago the next morning. And this happened on Thursday night, the 14th. And on Saturday, I flew the boys back from Chicago so they could start school on Monday. on Monday. They start their senior year activities. My plan was to be there for the start of their senior year. My plan was to see Atlanta. Alex's plan was to see Notre Dame. All those plans suddenly aren't even important anymore. And so Bill had an ICD, internal cardiac defibrillator implanted on Monday. And then on Wednesday, the following Wednesday, less than a week after the event, we flew him back to Austin and took him home. And he is doing okay. You know, that he's walking and breathing and talking and able to maintain, some kind of cognitive thought. Pretty amazing, because he was down for about 10 minutes. He defied every single odd to be where he is today. And I would say no, thank you. Somebody said it for me. Thank you. No kidding. So, I've gone through crises with Bill before. I've gone through a heart attack with Bill. I've gone through some pretty scary legal stuff with Bill. I've gone through an aneurysm with Bill, many strokes, gone through a lot of stuff. And I thought, okay, who I am today is somebody able to cope with crisis. No. No, I get to learn again. And I'll tell you what. My brother, I'm going to point you out, my brother Jim sitting back here, this beautiful man with the long, beautiful Austin ponytail, who sadly lives in the Dallas area instead of down here. My brother was house sitting, and he has just stayed on. And a friend of ours who's a nurse, who used to specialize in international medical transport, flew up to Chicago. She just said, I heard what's happening, I'm coming. And we've had calls and food and support and people to sit with Bill and people to help him do the things that keep his mind active and keep him from worrying too much about his work. All that's been there. And I've been kind of I don't even know what I am. I don't even know what I am today. I got confused and thought I was supposed to speak last Sunday. It's like, no. I can hardly remember how to unload the dishwasher right now. I don't think I can do a sermon. Today, I may not be doing a good job, but yeah, I'm here. And so I don't even know what I feel. I'm still kind of on adrenaline, It's just been a little over 2 weeks. So what I didn't expect to feel was angry. I'm really pissed off that this happened. If you're listening to this online, sorry. Not sorry. I'm really mad. I'm mad that this happened to him. I'm mad that everything now has to change again. I'm upset that I had to ask my children what they wanted me to do in case their dad died before I got him back to Austin. It made me mad. And of course, what's underneath all that is scared. The selfish part of me is going, I didn't want to have to look after a cardiac patient. And those of you that are caregivers know how that gets you. I wanted to be more holy than that. I thought I was more holy than that. But I don't know how I can be holy if I can't be human. I don't know if there's a way to have this journey without getting the wind totally knocked out of you every now and then. And I haven't been very good at praying. So let me tell you, this is a two-part deal. I'm giving you permission. in times of crisis to not be good at praying. The flip side of that is you better let other people do it for you. You better take it all in, right, T? You better take it all in, because I felt the prayers, I felt them. And you know, here's what's great about spirit and time and space not meaning anything. I felt the prayers before some of you even knew what was happening. It's like I know the prayer exists in your heart already. Our prayers exist in our hearts for each other already. Did you know that? It doesn't need a crisis to activate it. It's already happening. It's just that it gets up here to our conscious thought. And do you know that the prayers from others lifted up and supported me? The prayers from others, let it be okay that I was angry and confused and disappointed in myself. Do you know I have a little flip book on my counter in my kitchen called from that book called Jesus Calling? If you've never read Jesus Calling, try it sometime, because every now and then we tend in unity to make God kind of distant or hypothetical or theoretical or mental. And sometimes the very thing we need is the idea, the written word, the thought of God speaking directly to us and saying, I am right there with you, kid. And that little devotional book does it every day. And sometimes I'm going so fast, I don't even have a chance to read it, but I can look at it and know the comfort that is in those words. And I have a bird feeder right outside my kitchen window, and the finches are happy, happy, happy right now because it's hot and dry outside, and we have Niger out for them. And I can watch those beautiful little creatures of God. And that's a little breath of the Holy Spirit every time a finch comes. It's even that every time one of those big, dumb doves lands there trying to eat the food. And scaring the little birds away. You know that's why magicians use doves, don't you? They're not very smart. You put them in a dark place in a magician's hat, they'll just lay there. It's no problem. I kind of want to be a dove right now. Just put me in a dark place and I'll just lay there. And I see it in my fierce little cat who wants to come crawl up beside me and lay in the corner of my arm just when I need it. And in my brother, who's up just a little bit ahead of me to get breakfast started for the kids before school. It's everywhere. And you got to grab it every time you see it. You got to let it seep into your consciousness. Because that's part of the becoming. That's part of the becoming I'm discovering over and over and over again. Is that I get to rediscover who I am every day. I don't know what it's going to be like 10 years from now, but I hope that no matter what the flesh looks like, because I'm pretty sure it's going to be different. Not enough doctors in the world for that. But I'm hoping that the inside, and this is what I'm holding to, is smarter than it is today. I hope it's more resilient than it is today. It's certainly more resilient than it was 10 years ago. So I'm planning on it being more resilient 10 years from now. I'm planning on it being more patient. I'm planning on it being able to laugh at itself a little bit better than it does today when it takes itself so damn seriously. You know? It's one of our biggest downfalls, isn't it? Taking ourselves too seriously. Oh, I can do that so well. And where our hope is, where our hope is that I'd like to think takes us beyond psychological study, is a psycho-spiritual element that says we are destined to fulfill that blueprint. That's what our destiny is. There's not a whole lot of guesswork. It's just keeping on walking that direction. And I was thinking about the life of Jesus, and Jesus knew. Jesus knew that his life was going to take one turn after another. He could have started his career a whole lot earlier, you know. When the lifespan of most people, if you made it to 60, you were old in those days. You know, lifespan wasn't as long as it is today. And so when Jesus was living, he could have started his career a whole lot earlier. He was patient with his becoming. He was patient with knowing that he could teach when he was 12, and then he needed to ripen until he was 30, until he was a man in his community who was accepted as a rabbi, who was accepted even by other faiths as a prophet. And boy, did he pack a lot in those 3 years. You know, I don't know that Jesus knew that he was only going to have 3 years to do it. I don't know that Jesus knew that the political climate would become so tense that his death was inevitable. I don't know if he knew that when he started teaching. That's where it ended up. And only one time in Scripture, I'm not saying that there's not more than one time that wasn't recorded, but only one time in Scripture does Jesus say, God, are you sure about this? Oh my gosh, I say that daily. We only know of Jesus saying it once. Are you sure about this? Could you take this away from me? Would that be okay? Oh yeah, that's right. It's your will, not mine. Let my will be yours. Let those two wills be in concert with each other. So why am I preaching this today? Because I got to figure this out today. I got to know this today. I've got to live as though my future self was already in the making. And we have the perfect blueprint to follow, already coded in right here in our DNA. You know, in 10 years, there's a possibility that some of us in this room aren't going to be inhabiting this flesh anymore. So it's possible that in 10 years, you will be pure energy. Wow. So I want to live it with no regrets. Things I wish I hadn't done, my suboptimal decisions. This is what we have to do with them, isn't it? Wow, was that suboptimal? That relationship, that tattoo, that whatever. Wow, that was suboptimal. I'm going to use that on my kids. Don't tell them. Son, that was really suboptimal. Oh, that's the other thing. The day we flew out, we went from the Department of Public Service, and Alex got his driver's license, and then we went straight to the airport. And then Friday, we had a lunch appointment for David, and he got his. So I just thought I'd add a couple of more stressors and have 2 teenage boys driving while my husband's recovering from a cardiac arrest. Yeah, I'm making them do errands. Last night, they had a date with each other and went to a movie. Oh, it was so nice. It was like, I'm not going to say a word. This is perfect. I don't want to make too big a deal out of it. So, my friends, I'd appreciate your continuing prayers. So would Bill. So would my children. And I'll keep praying for you because it keeps me healthy. You know? Some of the best moments I've had is when I've been able to step out of myself and do something for somebody else. So, please, let's just keep praying. Let's keep knowing that the prayer is there, even if somebody doesn't know what's going on with us, that we're praying anyway, that we are beings of prayer. That's what we are. That's what we are. And when somebody flies through your head for no particular reason, Carl, I just saw, I don't know if I saw your name or somebody who reminded me of you just the other day. And here we are, face to face. We call out to each other. That's part of our becoming too. So when somebody flies through your brain, even if you haven't thought about them in years, you're going, why in the world did they fly through my brain? Pray for them. Just send a little prayer. It takes about that long. I love y'all. I'm so glad to be here today. This was good for me. Thank you. Thank you. I love you. I love you. I'm happy to see all these pretty, pretty faces right here. God bless us. Are we going to meditate now or do we have a song? So the doors of our hearts have to be open in order for anything to happen. It's too hard on us to resist the voice of God. So just let it be. Just that soft place filled with light inside you, that place that aches a little bit, a place that feels full. A place that produces actions that reveal the very best of us. Be there. And for today, bring in all those for whom you pray into that sacred space that's in your heart. It's big enough. It's big enough to accommodate the whole world. So bring everyone in for whom you pray today, the ones whose names you know and the ones whose names you don't know. Because we cannot wish the best for ourselves without wishing it for all others as well. And as we all come together, we're so much stronger than the sum of our parts. We're a mighty force. When we acknowledge and embrace and nurture the oneness, and so for your perfection in potential, for the true and sweet knowledge of Spirit, give thanks. And let's wrap up our entire planet so that all may know a moment of comfort where there is war and strife, where there is fear and hunger. For all the creatures of the earth. We bless them. For all living things. We embrace them with goodwill and gratitude. Loving God, thank you. That in just a few moments we can remember who we are and who we're becoming. For a moment we can remember that we're not alone. For a moment we can remember that we do all things and we move through this world in our words, thoughts, and actions to glorify your divine spirit. And so we pray that we are lifted up today even as our feet are on the ground. For all this good, we give thanks. For all the blessings that are extended and received today, we give thanks. For who we are now and for who we are becoming, we give thanks. Let's seal this prayer today by speaking together our Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Big breath. Can I ask the ushers to come forward?